Welcome into a special edition, a special post-SummerSlam edition of GKW. It's Good Karma Wrestling. I'm Gabe Nutchell. He's Brian Rowitz from ESPN West Palm. I'm from ESPN Milwaukee. And, of course, from ESPN 1000 in Chicago, it is Jonathan Hood. Guys, I had a lot of fun tonight. That was a fun night of professional wrestling or sports entertainment. Because if you have a tractor involved, I don't know necessarily what to call that. But it was a wild main event, and I guess let's just start there because that's what we just saw. The last match, last time, last man standing between Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. Roman retains after Brock Lesnar used a tractor, a front loader, to dump Roman back into the ring, then push the ring, and then eventually tip the ring into about a 45-degree angle. All for naught because he ends up getting buried underneath a bunch of rubble by the Bloodline, and Roman Reigns retains in the main event of SummerSlam.
Guys, we have seen a lot of stuff in professional wrestling. Have never seen that. I can tell you, this is not one of these things where we've seen all the time. Never seen a tractor being involved that way to tilt the ring the way it was. It was so brutal. It was so physical, and it gave us more than we expected. What do we want as wrestling fans? Something we've never seen before, and to be able to see something that was just spectacular. And that was a hell of a finish there as ultimately Roman Reigns, as they say in the business, buried Brock Lesnar, at least maybe for the time being.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, they did two tractor spots. The first one, he puts Roman in it, and then he dumps him into the ring. And it was very lackluster. Like, he was doing it. It's like, oh, what's going to happen here? And he just sort of falls in the ring. So, like, when he went back to the tractor, my immediate thought was, all right, guys, we get it. There's a tractor. We don't need to do this anymore. And then he lifted the damn ring. The ring got lifted. I was like, all right, a huge pop down here in South Florida. Like, bravo, Brock. Bravo, Triple H, I guess. Like, do we already give him credit for everything? Like, that was a really fun main event for something that I think we all agreed wasn't really something we were looking forward to coming into the night.
Well, so last Friday, was that part of the negotiations? Like, Brock decides to walk out, but hey, all right, I'll come back and I'll main event your premium live event, but only if I can use tractor at my discretion.
That's right. I'll come back if I can bring my tractor up from Winnipeg or Saskatchewan or wherever he lives. That's exactly what happened, man. It was so great, though. And the question that we had coming into this is, we've seen Lesnar and Roman wrestle so often, and we were wondering, okay, yes, the stipulation is different. Yes, it's last man standing, but how can it be different than the other matches? Well, we found out tonight, didn't we? We found out how different it could be. We saw Paul Heyman go through the table. We saw the Usos try to be able to help their guy. We actually saw Theory come out. Now, here's the thing about Theory. So Theory comes out, and I'm thinking, okay, you're going to cash in on Roman. How are you going to count the three count when it's not in a ring, right? Because if he's going to cash in, it has to be in the ring. It can't be in this oblong ring where the referee will be sliding out, right? 1, 2, oh God, and he just slips out. Like, how's that going to work? So that whole cash-in thing with the ring being that way, I don't even know how that would have worked, but just the idea that Theory's been asking for it for a while, and at least he put himself in the match.
At that point, he's cashing in. It's a last man standing, so I'd assume it becomes a triple threat last man standing, much like when Seth Rollins cashed in at Mania. But how do you do a triple threat last man standing? Both, like, the other two guys have to be down for a 10 count, and you have to be the one standing. Who knows? Certainly would have been interesting had they actually just go that way. It seemed like that was the way they were going to go the entire time in terms of him faking, coming down. They've done that a number of different times where somebody who has that briefcase comes down, gets interrupted, never technically cashes in, so they keep the briefcase. But it was, I was not anticipating, like, when we reconvene next Thursday, and a lot can happen between now and Thursday, and we do your favorite match. Like, I mean, that's not a technical wrestling masterpiece, but it was my favorite match of the night. Like, it was the one I had the most fun watching.
But how much of that, I agree, like, that was a blast to watch. That was fun as a wrestling fan. But how much is that sort of like, we had such a low bar for it? Because it far exceeded expectations, and it was fun. But how much of it is like, all right, like, we don't want to see this again? And also, when we saw it 3-4 months ago, it was not good at Mania. Like, this was really good as opposed to just, 3 or 4 months ago.
That's a great point, Brian, because I had expectations of Corbin and McAfee stealing the show. It got a little sloppy at times. Pat McAfee almost injured himself a couple of times. So like my expectations for that, and that ended up being fine, right? Like it all worked out. Pat appeared to be fine at the end of the match. So, but my expectations were, that could steal the show, and because it didn't, it probably ends up being a little bit more disappointing than it actually was.
See, now all of a sudden you see this matchup and you say, okay, well, what's next for Roman? And that's what's next for Brock. A lot of this in SummerSlam for me, guys, was not just the matches, but to find out what's next. A lot of times in the McMahon era, it's like these isolated matches, but there's no extension to the story for, oh my God, I can't wait to see what happens Monday on Raw. It was the last time that we've said that as,
Right.
For the three of us to say, hey, here's the pay-per-view, here's the premium live event. Okay, so now what happens on Monday? Now what happens on Friday? What's the fallout from all of this, right? And so because usually now under McMahon, here's the matches, and then we just, tear that program up and we go on something else. There's an extension from what we saw tonight to what's going to happen on Monday, what's going to happen on Friday. I mean, I can't wait to see what Roman Reigns has to say and who's next for him. As he's beat Brock again, who's next for Roman? And so that match made me think, wow, if you beat Brock again, so what's going to be the new thing for Roman?
Yeah, I think that's the thing where, like, I, for one, want to sort of pump the brakes. Like, I don't want to give Triple H credit on everything that we see, like, these last few weeks or these next few weeks, because some of it is just sort of like, hey, there aren't 20 million jump cuts on the pay-per-view. Like, I, for one, that might have been my favorite part of the night. Like, there were fewer jump cuts. It was more enjoyable to watch. But we've talked about it. This was essentially the end of the McMahon era. This was the last Vince show. They didn't really blow up the card. We didn't have Rollins versus a mystery opponent. This was the end of Vince. So to your point, Jay Hood, Monday starts a new era, and it seems like everything's buttoned up towards like, all right, Roman's moving on. The Usos are moving on. Bianca's moving on. Like, we are starting a new era on Monday, and that is really exciting.
And it's the subtle things, right? Because there are still some big picture issues that I had with, like, I have no idea why we're showing a 3-minute long Kevin Owens pump up video when Kevin Owens isn't even on the card. Like, I don't know why we're, I don't know why there are still so many advertisements on a premium live event I'm already subscribing for. Like, some of these things certainly need to be taken care of. But it's the little things, right? And I know a lot of people on social media were talking about this. Jay Hood, I know you were pointing this out to us in the group chat we have for our show, in that it's the way the announcers even talk, right? Like, oh, the name of the official who just screwed up there. Oh, it's, you can actually say words like wrestling now in WWE. It's just kind of some of those little things that make it flow and seem more natural.
Yeah, you could just tell that there was a new day in the WWE, and you could just start with commentary with Michael Cole. There was a GD that was dumped, if you notice, in the main event. I mean, because he got into it. It felt like SmackDown 2002, the kind of language that I think Michael Cole was trying to get. We found out that the referee for the Liv Morgan Ronda Rousey match, Dan Engler, that was the name of the official there. Chad Patton was the
Get it together,
official.
Dan.
Yeah. I mean, Chad Patton was the official for Lesnar and for that matchup against Roman Reigns. Remember, you couldn't say the official's name forever. You never mentioned the referee's name, and now it felt natural. There's a little trivia to Cole as well, talking about the past and tying it to the present. That's stuff that was not allowed before. It just sounded different today. It felt new and fresh.
I mean, there were even little things like acknowledging that wrestling exists outside of the WWE world, like with Jarrett saying, oh, this is the start of a busy weekend for him to, because he's working the Flair match tomorrow. Acknowledging something like that, that's a big deal for someone that's paying attention.
Yeah.
Well, you brought it up, Brian. So do we want to talk about it now? The refereeing problem that exists within WWE. I mean, Double J's got to come in. They missed a low blow from Pat tonight. Obviously, the refereeing situation in the Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey match, like, professional wrestling might be losing its credibility. The last thing I want is people going, hey, I think pro wrestling is rigged like the NBA. That's the last thing I want, guys. So, like, hopefully, like, Monday, Triple H comes out, addresses it, and really, make sure that everything lines up. I mean, this is certainly a concern coming up.
I understand. This will be a frontline thoughts, I'm sure, on ESPN Radio. Well, should we have robot referees in pro wrestling? I'm sure that'll be Frontline News on ESPN.com.
Hey, I mean, if anything, it was a way to let Liv retain the title. So you got that at least. It was sort of creative. I don't know if creative is the right word, but Liv won and he retained the title, and it wasn't a clean finish over Ronda. So at least you got that going.
And what I liked about that though is it allows, like, I don't buy Ronda as the smiling baby face that they kind of had her coming back as. Like, she's the baddest woman on the planet. That's what you call her. Like, she's in there to kick your ass. Like, and she's gonna do it with a damn smile on her face. Like, she's just a natural heel for professional wrestling because she's so damn tough, like in real life, and has that background. So what I liked about what happened in that match, it extends the feud, and I'm sure we'll see it at Clash of the Castle coming up in 5 weeks. But it also allowed Ronda, who was kind of already starting to get there on Friday last night on SmackDown, it allows her to be, to me, the more natural version of herself in WWE, where she's like, screw this, I'm better than you, everybody knows I'm better than you, and I'm going to kick everybody's ass here because I can.
Okay, so I've said many weeks on the show on Good Karma Wrestling that I don't get Liv Morgan. I don't understand why she's champion. I don't get it. Okay, so Rowitz, I will ride with you in this regard. We've already known that Ronda Rousey's a heel, but Vince didn't want that. He wanted the marketing dollars of Ronda Rousey. Told Rousey, smile, damn it, you're a babyface. God damn it, smile, right? All that. We always know that she hates us. She hates us wrestling fans. It's been on social media. She hates us. She hates the idea that we go after her. She never got that kind of criticism in MMA, so she hates us. And so if she is going to turn, and I think she's turned a long time ago, but if she's going to officially turn on someone who people like, and that's Liv Morgan. They love the story of Liv Morgan being champion because she went through the NXT and WWE, and she's been underneath for a long time. Now she's the champion, and people are going to like her. So if you're going to have her turn heel against Liv Morgan, somebody that I think a lot of wrestling fans really enjoy.
Well, and that idea is just such it's an example of Vince kind of contradicting himself a little bit. Because I 100% agree, Jay Hood. Like, he clearly wants, okay, I want the marketing dollars, you're babyface, you're more marketable.
Yeah.
But like NWO, like, I mean, you went against NWO, you still tried to, but obviously they were heels. Like, you're telling me Becky Lynch over this last year hasn't been marketable for the WWE? She has been a heel since she came back last SummerSlam against Bianca Belair. You look over at AEW and you see some of the marketable guys there that are still heels, like Adam Cole. Like, I mean, it's 2022. Like, you don't have to be the smiling babyface in order to have marketing dollars and money and people want to buy your merch. Like, to me, if Ronda Rousey is this badass version of herself, that to me makes her more marketable to the fan base.
Well, not just that. Also, like in 2022, the way sort of kayfabe is, Ronda can be a heel and still go on SportsCenter and do those interviews and still do those promotional hits where, that's what you want her. Like, you don't, I think Vince was sort of stuck in like, oh, well, you can't have the Sheik doing that. You can't have, the heel Sergeant Slaughter on SportsCenter talking about things like that. Like, Ronda can do that in 2022.
But who's the first person they always throw out there on the talk shows, on SportsCenter, late night shows? It's their biggest heel that they have. It's the one heel that they had that could turn Logan Paul into a babyface. It was the man.
Exactly. So I don't get why they don't lean into Jay Hood's point. Like, she's admitted she doesn't like wrestling fans. She's, spoken out against them. Lean into that. Like, it's already written for you. And she's someone that's come off very uncomfortable on the mic. Like, she doesn't seem very natural. Here's a real feeling. You don't have to craft a storyline saying, hey, you hate wrestling fans, go out there, talk about how much you hate wrestling fans. And there's your character.
Capital on Twitch. And by the way, we're on Twitch for this special broadcast, twitch.tv/ESPN Without Chicago. We thank you for checking in with this special Twitch cast as well. The Cap says, personally, not a Liv Morgan fan, but she does put in her work. Yeah, I get it. I mean, she's wrestled underneath for a long time. And if you're going to go with her, go with her. But I think that there might be some kind of suspension or whatever, or a big fine is going to happen to Ronda Rousey, and there'll be a return. The way the match was a little screwy, obviously, and it wasn't going to be pretty because it is Ronda Rousey, right? And so she had the majority of that match. Liv was trying to fight out of it. She taps while the count's taking place. So they'll have a rematch at some point. But Rousey has turned in a way where she's mad. She's going after the official. So I think this will be fine. This will do more for Liv, I think, than Ronda Rousey, quite frankly.
Well, yeah, I hope so, but I mean, you can't hide the fact that like that was probably the worst match of the night, and there were 2 matches that involved celebrities. Like that was not a good wrestling match, but yes, hopefully it progresses Liv, it gives her something as opposed to she's happy and now she's the champion. Like you need something else in that character.
So, Gabe, go ahead. I'm sorry, Gabe. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, well, you brought up the 2 celebrities. How would you grade them? How would you grow? We saw both these guys at WrestleMania. Now they make their return for SummerSlam. I think at this point we already know what to expect out of Pat McAfee. You know, he had the 2 matches in NXT, showed up, wrestled well against Theory at Mania. I think we know what to expect of Pat McAfee, and I think he's going to put together a solid performance. I would say tonight was worse than he was at Mania. Just a couple of slip-ups, a couple of things that weren't, natural. But yeah, I'm willing to look past it. Like I think of when he jumped off the top rope and you somersault through. The landing wasn't super clean, but when you're not doing it all the time, it's not always going to be super clean. Like the couple of times I got worried about when he did the swanton off the top rope, that was an awkward landing. When he tried to do the move that finished it, which I think was some sort of modified Panama Sunrise, that was real ugly, and he was that close to like getting his head just on the mat, and it ended up working out. So there were a couple of things clean there, but I was really impressed with Logan Paul as well.
Hey, you know what? How about this? Watch this, bro. You know what happened, Gabe, in that matchup? Pat McAfee wrestled like a color analyst for SmackDown. You get it? Like, that's not supposed to look smooth, right?
Right.
That's supposed to look smooth. His ass should be in there every week. He wrestled like a daily talk show host on Sirius XM. So if I'm in the back and you ask me, like, how come that match, how come he wasn't smooth? He's a part-time wrestler, and he's supposed to be in a brawl with Corbin. It's not supposed to look great. It's like the match with The Miz. That thing's supposed to look great. Is it supposed to look 100%? No, he's not a full-time wrestler, Logan Paul. But for McAfee, I can make the case that, hey, you know what? It wasn't going to be great because it's McAfee, and he's just trying to fight him. And you know what? I think it was a fun match. I just know one thing: people love McAfee. They love him. Over. I mean, he's come across for a long time because he is just the everyman. He's got a talk show in which he can speak his mind the way he wants to speak his mind. He gets on the mic. He's on SmackDown, and when McMahon was there, he didn't even produce McAfee. He was just being himself, right? Which is amazing, right? You can just going to say douchebag and bum ass Corbin on Fox. No problem, man. Just do you. So I think people would really enjoy him. I thought it was a good build and a good finish. It's never going to be 5 stars. It's Pat McAfee. So I thought it was fine for what it was.
Yeah, I think you look at McAfee, he's one of the most over faces in the company right now. But both celebrities delivered. Like, both of them didn't really have opportunities to hide. These weren't tag matches where you just throw them out there and I'd say, hey, Logan Paul, stand on this, the apron for a little bit, and then you can hit the frog splash for the table. Both these guys delivered. Like, it was impressive seeing them in the ring. They both proved they can go. And from a McAfee standpoint, the thing I was interested in, Gabe, you talk about the guys he's worked with. Those are guys that can carry him. Like an Adam Cole, I think Theory also, like those are guys that can carry him. Corbin's not exactly in that boat, and the match still delivered to me. So I was very impressed by both those guys tonight.
See, it's funny you say that, and I'm not going to say that Corbin is as good as Adam Cole, because he's not.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's as good as Theory, but I think Baron Corbin in the ring is underrated. Like, I just feel like he hasn't been given a huge opportunity a lot of times with some of the storyline, the characters, especially recently, the stuff that he was doing with Madcap. And I think we've started to see Madcap's a pretty damn good wrestler too when he's been given this opportunity, and they finally took the suspenders off of him on SmackDown. But I think Corbin's a little bit underrated, and I was impressed with him tonight as well. And I mean, Miz has been an underrated wrestler for quite some time.
Yeah.
And it was a great match for a great spot for Logan Paul to be in. That being said, holy hell, that frog splash. Oh my goodness. That was something else.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's obvious some athleticism with Logan Paul that makes him very attractive as an in-ring wrestler.
Yeah, so I got to give Logan Paul a lot of credit, whether or not he should be a babyface or heel, I think we all know the answer to that. But to me, it's about the in-ring work. And the cynical part of me says that, boy, get an athletic guy in there or a woman in there and train him a little bit. All of a sudden, they can put on a 5-star match. I mean, so we didn't think much of Logan Paul and Miz. We didn't really break it down a lot, this whole rivalry, because it's kind of ha-ha on Raw. It's so to the side. But you put it in the ring, and it delivered. It delivered. And so I really think that both did a great job. You're right, Gabe. That splash that he did, the Shane McMahon spot or the Shawn Michaels spot, whatever you want to call it, right? For him to dive on the table and nail the Miz was fantastic. I just thought that was great. And so, oh, by the way, so that Polaroid finish for the Miz, that would have been the shits, huh? Remember he had the little card. What was he gonna do with that? Like cut his throat? Like split his head open? Like what was the finish there? If I grab this little card, this little Polaroid, I'm gonna beat Logan Paul. You will?
It's worth a lot of money. It would have, he would have submitted before he used it or poured water on it. I don't know. You got to think outside the box. We saw a tractor flip a ring tonight. Come on, you got to think outside the box tonight.
Polaroid finish. I would have loved to see what that looked like.
I will also say this about Logan Paul, because the worry when somebody from the outside comes inside, the worry as a wrestling fan is, do you love it? Are you willing to do what it takes to be a professional wrestler if you put in these situations? And I think of what Bad Bunny did last year at WrestleMania that was wildly entertaining, what Logan Paul has done. Like, look, I don't know enough about Logan Paul at this point to know if he is a pro wrestling fan. But I know, somebody pointed out the work that Liv Morgan's done. Like, in the short time that we've seen Logan Paul, to me, he's done the work. I think of when the brief moment that Rob Gronkowski was a WWE superstar, and the story of, because that was, the Thunderdome WrestleMania, of him jumping off that balcony onto other wrestlers for the 24/7 title, and how he was scared to do it, and how Vince is like, no, this is not a big deal. Here's how you do it. And he did it. Like a 77-year-old man just did it. And Gronk was scared to do that. And Logan Paul just decided to go top rope, announcer table, frog splash tonight. Like that's putting in sacrifice, and that's putting in the work to me. And that right there is what makes me think, yes, this can work for the WWE going forward with Logan Paul.
So for the Broets of the world, Logan Paul versus Bad Bunny. Do it, cowards.
There you go. Well, that's the thing. Like, I think it's the little stuff. Like, I think the guys and girls that are outside the wrestling world that show up for these moments, for those pop culture moments, that care, like, we see that translated. We saw that a lot with Bad Bunny. I think it was Damian Priest who would talk about it, saying this guy was busting his ass, like, getting ready for this. He was out there, training, working hard, and it shows. Like, they're not showing that this is easy, but if you put in that little bit of work, we saw it with Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania. Like, those little things, like, it goes a long way. And I feel like everyone benefits. WWE gets the benefit of, like, hey, we're talked about on TMZ, or we're talked about on the Today Show, or whatever the case may be. And wrestling fans get to say, all right, you know what? That was entertaining.
I thought it was going to take a long time to top using the prop like a giant mousetrap to win an event. And here we are, like, less than 6 months later, tractor tipping a ring. Like, we've already, like, WWE found a way to top it. Unbelievable. We also had a lot of surprise returns tonight. I guess surprise returns, because Edge, I think they kind of telegraphed it, not just with the promo that they showed in the pre-show. If you happen to miss that, they kind of ran back some of the similar promos that they've been running since Money in the Bank, teasing somebody's return. Everybody was somewhere hoping it could have been Bray Wyatt. It was very obviously Edge, and the one they showed on the pre-show tonight ended with "I'll be there tonight." Was like the message that was okay. So whoever it is going to be there. And they also kind of telegraphed that Edge was going to show up because, well, they made the match that he showed up in a no disqualification match. So Edge shows up and ends up assisting the Mysterios to take down the faction that he built for the Judgment Day. Your thoughts on the return of the Rated R superstar?
Well, as you guys know, I'm a huge Edge fan. So anytime I see Edge on my TV, I'm happy. I just like Edge coming back with his Michael Jackson from Thriller jacket that he was wearing out there for the matchup. He comes out there and he cleans house, and there's retribution there. And so I just like to see him out there. But Judgment Day and Mysterio, I think it was fine. Just kind of watching the matchup, I think it was just fine. People are waiting for this turn with the Mysterios, and as I told Bro, it's like I don't know why people are looking forward to this because again, Ray's son's still green. That guy needs to be in NXT. Sorry, I mean, just because he has a rub from his father doesn't mean that he belongs. I mean, I think he's learning by doing these live events and being on television. But as far as the turn, if he goes with Judgment Day, that still will be underwhelming to me because I think he still needs to learn how to work. But it was just good to see Edge there, and so I don't know if this feud continues, but I thought it was cool for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, my only issues with the Edge thing is just like the storytelling, and maybe they end up tying up the loose ends. But like, I feel like you cut the legs out from Judgment Day, that Edge is just taking them all out by himself. And also, like, why is he such an over baby face now? Like the last time we saw him, he's crapping on the fans and hates the fans and this and that. And then Finn turns on him, so now we feel bad for him. Like that's the only thing. But yeah, the telegraphing was very weird. I'm not someone that often watches the pre-show. I just happen to flip it on, and then it says, "Hey, come in tonight." It's like, oh, okay, so this won't be a surprise. Like, cool. But that's my only issue there is I felt there's some storyline issues, but hopefully we get that tied up this week.
The loneliest pregame show ever, by the way. I put it on there like 5 minutes beforehand. There's like Lawler and Booker T, and there's no fans behind them.
No,
they're like by the dumpster out there.
Yeah, they were in the back, a couple of trailers. Like, where did you put this pre-show? There was no place in the side of the stadium. You had a 7-mile walkway. You could spare a little space for them to actually give it some atmosphere, because the atmosphere was cool tonight. And it's like, wait, where are they doing this show? What is going on right now?
You can see the garbage cans in the back. Guys, like they're like hosing down the back. How's it going, Arnold? Long night tonight. Like, what the? I mean, Jerry Lawler was so bored. I don't know if he really knows the storylines or not, but he's just sitting there with his sad little crown there, and he's just like, I used to sell out Nashville when I was in the business back in the day, and he's just sitting there, and I'm just like, this is so boring. This is the reason why. This is why usually we're doing this live show tonight, but the three of us usually are fast forwarding through a lot of this to get to match after match after match. We had to sit through a lot of this tonight, man. That's not what we usually do.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of fluff tonight. Like, Gabe, you mentioned the commercials. You had the long entrance ramp. You had the video packages. Like, this show could have been an hour shorter, I feel like.
I don't know why, but before the U.S. title match featuring Theory and Bobby Lashley, they decided to show the package for the main event. Like, why are you showing this now? Like, you've already got me. I'm here. This is like, and maybe this is just a me thing, being a PGA Tour golf fan. Like, when the PGA Tour, when I'm watching an event, and they're advertising for the PGA Tour, like, no, don't. What are you doing? Like, I'm already here. You don't need to advertise at me. I'm already watching your product. Just give me that 30 seconds back and show me some golf shots, man. Like, just give me that 3 minutes back of the Kevin Owens package that you decided to show tonight, and show me more tractors tipping over rings.
And then meanwhile, I don't remember if it was Meltzer or Brian Alvarez. They said they had to take time away from the Ronda Morgan match because Miz and Logan Paul went long. Like, how does that add up? Like, you have a bunch of other things you can take time away from as opposed to actual in-ring action.
I don't get it, man. I still understand it. Well, we got to get to the tag team matchup, page 2 on the notes.
Before the tag team, I mean, Gabe, you talk about returns. What about the start of the night returns? You had 3 sort of returns right there. Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Shirai.
Yeah, so and they called her Io Sky as well, so I don't know if we're going to see a name change there.
That.
Yeah, I think Graves kind of snuck that in, so maybe she keeps her name. But I mean, this is huge. I think like it signals something big under the Triple H banner, him running creative. I mean, Bayley was going to eventually return. She was just coming back from an ACL. But Dakota Kai being somebody who was released from NXT. And she had kind of signaled that she didn't want to renew her contract, so they released her from NXT 3, 4, 5 months ago, whatever that was. And same thing with Io Shirai in that it seemed like she was going to go to Stardom. Like, she was going to go back to Japan, and she was going to wrestle over there unless she got the main roster call-up. And the all-female faction, sign me up for this, man. Like, if Triple H, not only did he sign these 2 wrestlers that one was who was already gone, one who may have had a foot out the door. Like to convince them to stick around is a huge thing, I think, for WWE. In addition, like, hey, yeah, we're open to factions again because that's something over the last we've had a couple here and there. They haven't had a ton of success. Look at the Judgment Day tonight. But it just made me excited, like thinking, okay, yes, this is indeed a new era. It was a great way to me to start off the first Triple H pay-per-view.
Well, let's talk about what led into that, because that was Becky Lynch against Bianca Belair. I kind of thought that there was going to be a title change, that Becky would be able to strike twice at SummerSlam and win. She did not. As a matter of fact, Browitz, you said there was no title changes that took place tonight, right? Okay, all right. So I thought, I don't know about you guys, I thought that that Becky was aggressive. She's the heel in this situation, so she called a lot of the spots. I just thought there's a little something off here. I didn't think that. I don't know what I expected. I expected better than what I saw in this matchup. There's nothing against Bianca, but I just thought that there was some hesitation there. I didn't think that it was as smooth as I thought it would be. I understand what the match is before he even gets in the ring. It's Becky, being the heel and being aggressive versus the power of Bianca. I always got to watch Bianca Belair and realize that, man, she hasn't been in wrestling for a long time. So there's always going to be some kinks there. Every now and then there's going to be some things where it's not necessarily smooth. A lot of it's power. So I didn't think it was a great match. I think it's just okay. But I think afterwards, I was wondering if there was going to be a switch there, because when we see Io, Dakota, and Bayley come out, I'm thinking, yeah, she's standing next to Bianca, but what's going to happen here? And here's where we are. Anticipation, right? Is she part of the fourth person along with Becky in this group, or is she going to stand with Bianca? And it's, for now, Becky standing with Bianca. I love that. And we talk about something new and fresh, right? It was great to see Bayley out there, and so she gets the biggest pop, and then it's Dakota Kai, and that's a medium pop. And then people are like, Io, NXT? Io? And then just the idea that all three of them were standing together, that looked badass. And so now we talk about anticipation, right? Monday, Friday, whenever we see them, it's like, wow, you just put three heels on one show in one night. Pretty nice.
Yeah, I agree. Like, all that was awesome. To your point about the pops, it's a little thing, but I feel like literally reversing the order of them coming out changes the pops. Because Bayley being the first one, you're taking the legs out of everyone after that. Like, Bayley is the name that everyone knows. But if you start with Io and then you go to Dakota and then it's Bayley, like, it's just the build up that way, as opposed to starting up here and then going down. But yeah, I think it's awesome to have them. I guess Dakota Kai, the first signing of the Triple H era, because she was a free agent. So she's back. I guess Io is still technically part of the roster. So bravo on him bringing someone like her back.
Yeah, where she gets the promotion from NXT. Again, getting promoted up to the main roster. It's, to me, Dakota Kai coming back, and I know we talked about it a little bit with Johnny Gargano, and even before everything like this happened, when we had him right here on GKW, the way he talked about Triple H, the way he talked about HBK, like it seemed like he was kind of leaning towards coming back to WWE. And to me, this just continues to open up the door that people that may have been released in the company from the past, it's a new day. And, they may be looking at some things and maybe looking at some of the people that they've released, because they've released a lot of really good wrestlers over the course of the last 12 to 18 months, that if they're looking for stars, they're looking for pops, they're looking for something a little different, I don't think they have to look all that far.
I forgot who tweeted it. I retweeted it at B Rhodes on Twitter. Like, credit to them for creating a new niche where basically they release people, you re-sign them a few months later, and then you get the benefit of the big return pop. So good on them for creating that atmosphere, at least.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, because I think that there's going to be a lot of unrighting some wrongs.
Sure.
I think on the part of Triple H, where he's like, yeah, I don't know if I would have released that guy. I don't know if I would have released her. I don't know if I would have released Road Dogg or some of my guys at NXT. I think as we move forward here over the next 12 months, we'll start to see some of the things that Vince did. And I think that Triple H was like, no, actually, I want these people on my roster because I know they can work or they can help us in the back. So I really thought, though, by the way, just to put a bow on that matchup, I really thought that we're going to see kind of what we saw from Cody and Seth, in which Becky looks over at Bianca and says, oh, no, I respect you. You beat me. They had the embrace and the hug. And I really thought that Becky was going to lay the lumber on Bianca. And it didn't happen. And so it's interesting.
What you talk about, yeah, and I know the comment is down there, is Becky a face? The one thing I wondered going into this match was, okay, it probably makes the most sense for Bianca to continue to build her, to have her go over Becky with that real match, something they've been building for a year since last year, and Becky made the surprise return, won in 16 seconds or whatever it was. But then my thought was, well, if Becky doesn't win this, what's next for big-time Becky Lynch? And big-time Becky Lynch as a face, I guess that's what's going to be next for Becky Lynch. Because I just feel that I thought, especially once Bayley returned, and I'm seeing these new things coming out, I'm going, okay, Becky, maybe she's got an injury. Maybe they just give her a little bit of time off to kind of refresh. She does still have a relatively young child at home that I'm sure she'd like to spend maybe a little bit more time with. And I just figured that she'll take some time off. That way she'll get the pop when she returns and have some sort of new character and reinvent herself the way she's done a couple of times over the last 3-4 years. But it looks like she's sticking around because she jumped right back into action, and maybe now she does turn face after she gave the respect to her opponent in Bianca Belair tonight.
Well, I'll throw out the fantasy booking then. You had that stare down. It was 3-on-2. You need to even up the score. Candice LeRae, welcome back. And now we got 3-on-3.
Well, looks like that's likely because for those of our new listeners and viewers, we had Johnny Gargano on Good Karma Wrestling. Go to the archives and look wherever you get your podcast, look for Good Karma Wrestling. The three of us talked to Johnny Gargano, and he leaned returning to the WWE. Like he says, I've never been in a WrestleMania. He liked to do that. He mentioned a number of wrestlers, AEW and WWE, he'd like to face. And so he's just chilling right now. When that surprised me to see him on the main roster of the WWE. He's a very, very good worker. He was a main event of a lot of those NXT shows under Triple H's watch. So it wouldn't surprise me. And if there's going to be Johnny, that means Candice won't be far behind.
Yep.
So we have the big returns, and I know you wanted to talk about it tonight, Jay Hood, because what tonight did is it did build that anticipation for what's next. You wonder what's next for Roman, although he does have an opponent for Clash for the Castle. What are they going to do to build that story as Drew McIntyre came out and gave some random promo tonight while holding a sword? Because that's what he does now.
That's a SummerSlam payday, brother. He did a promo. Right. That's a payday.
And shout out to Colt, the kid, Colt. Big pop, big chant for Colt.
Well, I mean, Pat McAfee is number one. Colt is number two in terms of most over for tonight. So, big shout out to Colt. Congrats to him. But the tag team match, it's got you wondering what's next for both. Like, okay, they just ended. I think that ends the rivalry between these two, the Street Profits and the Usos for now. So who's next? What's next for the Usos? But also, Montez Ford was aggressive tonight. Like, he came out aggressive, and we've been talking about it for a while. Is this team going to break up? When are they going to break up? And this may have been the first time they've actually teased at it, where I thought Montez Ford was so pissed off that Dawkins got pinned and had that look in his face as they were left in the ring. I thought it was going to happen tonight. Like, the champs, the guys who were standing tall were walking up the ramp while the losers were still in the ring. And that look on Ford's face, I thought they were going to turn. Instead, they turned to another commercial and they cut away from the action. But I thought it was going to happen tonight. Obviously, it didn't. But it was the first time I think they've actually hinted that the Street Profits could potentially break up.
I think it's funny that we continue to hear from the commentary about how awesome and how terrific Dawkins has looked. Dawkins has looked great. Dawkins has looked good. But at the same time, they plan to see more than ever tonight on SummerSlam. Boy, the aggressiveness of Montez Ford. He's not happy. He's intense, all this, right? What have I been telling you guys? Somebody's got to be Shawn Michaels. Somebody's going to be Marty Jannetty. Somebody's got to be Bret Hart. And someone's got to be Jim Neidhart. Someone has got to be Ricky Morton. And the other one's got to be Robert Gibson. Montez Ford was so pissed off. I thought there was going to be a turn right there, which would have been tremendous, right? But if nothing else, they planted the seed. But here's the thing. So I would imagine that we'll never see this match again. I mean, they've had some great matches, and quite frankly, this is the less of those matches that we've seen. Yeah. We've seen good SmackDown matches. We've seen previous pay-per-view matches between these two two tag teams. This was less of them. I think it was good, but we've seen better. And so it was almost like Montez was going to go after the official, going after Jeff Jarrett. and you knew Dawkins was going to take the pinfall. And so what happens after that? I can't wait to see what happens. But I just know that those four have had some great matches. This was just okay.
Well, I agree with that. To Gabe's point about the seeds and everything, tonight's the first time when thinking about that breakup that I thought it would be Montez as the heel. Like, I thought that was the route they were sort of building towards, with him almost costing them by arguing with Jarrett. Because Cole even pointed out, like, I don't know what his argument is. Like, it was clearly a 2 count. He has nothing to be upset about. I always thought it would go the other way, where Montez is the face, and you feel bad for him that Dawkins turns on him. But tonight sort of felt like it might go the other way.
I don't want to see I don't want to see Dawkins with some title run. I don't want to see that.
Montez is still the star, but he does it as a heel.
I mean, it would be the same thing. It'd be the same thing they did with Seth Rollins and the Shield. Seth ended up being the one who turned, and he ended up getting the push as the heel. Now, the Shield obviously being the exception, right? Like, there were 3 of them. All 3 of them ended up being superstars in WWE, and obviously Mox now the interim world champion over in AEW as well. But my guess is it ends up happening on Monday. But and again, to reiterate the New Day on commentary, like, they had mentioned, like, oh yeah, and there've been rumors about these guys potentially breaking up. That's going to be ticking them off. Like, they're hinting, like they're playing into wrestling fans' hands. Like, whoa, did he actually say that? Did Michael Cole say that he actually heard a rumor on a dirt sheet? Is that what just happened here?
This is about to be some AEW commentary now without Vince being in there. This is already off the rails, right? This is already off the rails. There is the New Day talking about IWGP and Ring of Honor on SmackDown TV. I'm like, what? This is already off the rails. But I look forward to seeing how these two are going to split up, Montez Ford and Dawkins, and then see Ford going on his run. Because we've already seen him, 20 pounds of muscle. This guy is intense, and I think that's going to be fun to see because it's something new. As someone who's a tag team, Mark, I want to know what happens with the Usos. Roman Reigns and the Usos are having these just unbelievable runs. Like, you can't get the titles off the Usos. You can't get it off of Roman Reigns. We're seeing historic runs for both of them.
Are you guys over it, though? Are you guys over the bloodline, or do you still want to see more?
No, it's still strong. You know where it comes from, bro. It becomes the power of the promo, right? But as Roman's up there and he's talking about God mode and nobody can get over. All right, great. But then the same thing with the Usos. The tag team division is not as strong as I'd like. But at the same time, the Usos, when they're in there, they're giving you excellent matches. There are no bad matches with the Usos. So maybe in this post-McMahon era, we'll see better tag teams. And maybe we'll see something between now and WrestleMania in which there's a real contender that you feel like, okay, if it's not Brock, then maybe this person can knock off Roman at WrestleMania.
Well, that's the thing. That hope is the one thing keeping me interested in them as champions. Who is ultimately going to beat them to get that bump, to get that, oh my God, they beat the Usos or they beat Roman. It looks like it's going to be Drew for Roman, which I don't love. Yes, Drew has worked hard and he deserves a title run with fans. I don't know if he's the guy, but from the tag team standpoint, there is no other tag team right now. There's a reason we see the Usos and the Street Profits in the ring together what feels like every single week on every single show. There's no one else out there right now. So until they build someone else up, they need to keep those belts.
It's easy. It's easy to me for the tag team. I don't know who ends up ending the Roman Reigns, run that he's on, but I think it's the New Day. Especially if Big E comes back and Big E's able to wrestle, to me, it's the New Day. Because that has been where Brock and Roman, and they said this tonight, has been the rivalry of the last decade in the WWE. The rivalry of the last decade in tag team wrestling in WWE has been New Day and Usos. So I think, to me, it's New Day, especially you can give that pop to Big E if he's able to return from his neck injury.
I would like to see something new besides the New Day. Remember, they had the championships for about 1 million years as well.
Yeah.
And multiple-time champion. But, again, under Triple H, I know that there's going to be new tag teams put together. Who knows? But I like – you ask me, do I like the Bloodline story? Yes, I do. I like it until something comes along that's better. And because of the stagnant booking from Vince, we never saw that next thing come along. I think between now and next April, we'll start seeing new and fresh in this company. So I like that. And by the way, this could have all happened with just a regular referee. I like I like the idea that Jeff's there just in case something weird would happen, but he just kind of 1, 2, 3 and left and is on his way to go across the street and take on Ric Flair. I mean this could happen with just a regular ref because there was no shenanigans really.
Zero.
Just showed up, no sleeves. Yeah, by the way, I work out. I'm still jacked. Just in case you guys were wondering, I don't have the sleeves on. I look good. Now you know it too. And then, there was the whole special guest referee thing. That whole stipulation was so weird for this because it ended up being Double J and then nothing happened. It's probably quite possibly one of the most underwhelming special guest referee spots I've ever seen.
All right. It was just kind of the thing where, what did I say? I said, well, you got a referee shorter than the 4 competitors. Right. It's like, what? I mean, what's he gonna do, right? I mean, it went over like a fart in church when they made the announcement, right? We got Adam Pearce is like, we got a special guest referee, and they show the video of like Jeff Jarrett. I'm like, you mean the guy that lost to China? Right. You mean that guy? The guy. And by the way, I didn't see this. I don't know if you saw this. As soon as the match started, there was this kid with a sign going across right in the hard camera, never drew a dime. Just went right across, never drew a dime. And that was directed at Jarrett because that's the thing. Never drew a dime. And he just kind of walked right across. If you guys didn't see that, go rewind it. At the beginning of that tag team match, never drew a dime sign and just kept walking.
So it was great. I mean, the reason he was there was some sort of Nashville angle, right? Then why didn't you just save him to get a pop when he came out, and here's the special guest referee. The whole thing didn't make sense. But the match itself, the match itself, I'm with you. And it was, to kind of go back to Brian's earlier point, it suffered from past expectations because we know the potential that these two teams have in the ring, especially together. But at the end of the night, I'm excited to see what happens going forward with both teams. And that's what hooks you, right? Like that's what gets you that next story, the never-ending nature of professional wrestling. It seemed like it's been a while since we've had that. And that's what makes me excited. The last premium live events that we've talked about, and we didn't have pop-up shows for them like we are tonight, but when we would talk about them on a regular show on Thursdays, we're talking about WrestleMania Backlash, where it's like, well, it's a house show. I mean, it was a fun night of wrestling. It was good. It was fun to watch it. We knew the wrestling action in the ring was going to be good, but ultimately didn't mean anything. Tonight it did. Tonight, it meant something going forward for WWE, and that's what makes me excited to see what happens for the first time in a while on Monday night and Friday night, and just see where WWE goes to build for the next pay-per-view for Clash for the Castle.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, I honestly, starting with the Bayley thing, and, that was a good first match also with Bianca and Becky that you're looking forward to. I felt different the rest of the night. Like I was on the edge of my seat, all right, what else is going to happen? And Triple H tweeted hey, the night's just starting. So that sort of adds to it. But it didn't feel like just going through the motions. And it ended with a fun night, with a fun main event. Tonight did feel different.
So Logan, let's see. Theory is 0-8 since becoming Money in the Bank. So and by the way, Lashley against Theory, did I not see that on Raw? That was a Raw match. What did that? I mean, and once again, it's like the old, Theory tapped out quickly because, he's got to rest himself for money. I was like, dude, don't waste my time then, right? I mean, this is just I saw a match. I saw a Raw match on SmackDown, on SummerSlam. It's like, what's the point of that, right? If you're not going to work hard or make me believe you're going to win the U.S. title, that's why I said last week, I said, why is Theory in this match if ultimately he just wants to be the heavyweight champion? What's the point of him being out there against Lashley? It just makes Lashley look even stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess we know what's next for Theory is he's going to just kind of continue to chase Roman. We know he's chasing Roman at this point, and he'll always be that guy in the shadows, and I'm sure he'll be incorporated with whatever story they tell with Drew McIntyre as well, getting ready for Clash of the Castle. I don't know what's next for Bobby. I assume that Bobby at some point would be somebody to challenge Roman Reigns. But if he's U.S. champ, probably not.
I don't know. I'll give him this much credit, guys. I mean, you talk about guys never taking a half step. I mean, his first WWE run, going to TNA, to Impact Wrestling, coming back to WWE. The guy's ageless. That is for sure. Like he doesn't look any different than we saw before. As far as you thinking, well, man, he's not the same guy. He's lost a step. He's as strong. He's as aggressive as he's ever been. I don't know what's the next step for him, but at least he's got a championship and believable. And the fans enjoy him. Every time he moves his hands, the fans move their hands too. They really like him a lot.
I mean, I'm basing this off the past decade of watching WWE, but like as a mid-card champion, like more than likely, like it feels like he's just gonna fall back into the shadows. Like we don't see the IC title on SummerSlam. Like it feels like that's the route he's gonna go, but hopefully that changes over the next few months.
But I mean, Triple H is a former IC champ. Do you think he tries to start to elevate that? You know, well, we have to wait and see. Like that's one of those things that I think it's still going to take time. It's going to take time to build realistic challengers other than Brock Lesnar for Roman Reigns to actually lose to, because that's just, you do that with long-term storytelling. You build up those characters, and they haven't done that. So Triple H is going to have to do that. Like my guess is we're not going to see a potential, maybe Roman loses here, I think, until at best Royal Rumble. At best.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the first time that you can actually build somebody up and you go, they've really been pushing this guy. Maybe it actually happens now. And, you know, that'd be the first time in, man, who knows how long that you felt that maybe Roman Reigns could actually drop the title. So some of these things are going to take time, but tonight was a great step in the right direction. So what were your guys' final takeaways for tonight? Because that's mine, is that just the excitement that I have for Monday and Friday, I haven't felt that way out of a pay-per-view in quite some time in WWE.
Well, for me, it's the word for me tonight is anticipation to find out what happens on Raw and SmackDown because of what has been set up. I just love the idea that we saw 3 heels built in one night with Bayley, Dakota, and Io. I want to know what that looks like now. If Becky is a babyface aligning herself with Bianca Belair, I think that's really cool. I want to see what happens with Roman Reigns. What does he have to say? Is he coming out too? That's the other question. Like, you come out to say that you beat the Beast. Okay, what's next? I know that we've seen McIntyre and we've seen McIntyre as well as Roman Reigns go around the horn. They've wrestled a lot on house shows, so they have been building themselves toward this live event that's going to happen in September, this Castle show. So I know that might be next, but I mean, after that, who's Roman going to take on? And so I'm worried about that. I'm also wondering about like Brock. Does he just kind of like go away now? When does he return? Royal Rumble, next WrestleMania? I have no idea, but those things I'm really interested in. They built something really special here. And for those that did not make SummerSlam, I'm sure next SummerSlam they'll have an opportunity. Again, a lot of this stuff was already booked when Vince was in charge. And so now I think Monday really officially starts the beginning of what Triple H really wants for this company. And so, again, I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, for me, the one word that comes to mind is just sort of fun. Like, tonight was fun. Like, in the past, WWE shows have felt like a chore. Like, we've talked about these premium live events are essentially house shows. Tonight was fun. And for years, when, you know, a lot of the stagnant booking has happened, it's like, all right, well, one day Triple H is going to take over. And now that he's here, I've sort of like managed expectations because I don't want to get too excited saying, oh my God, it's finally happening. We're going to get a new WWE era. But it's a hell of a start tonight. Like, tonight was fun from the first match all the way through the main event. And it's something I really haven't felt about a full WWE show in a very long time.
Yeah, tonight was excellent. I just thought of something while you were speaking there, Jay Hood. Is it possible that tonight was the last time we saw Brock Lesnar wrestle in WWE?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out outside of Roman who's a good partner for him, who's a good dancing partner with him. I'm sure that Triple H will find someone, but I can't think of someone on the main roster where I think, man, this would be good. Like, does Gunther, Brock do anything for you? That's a match that we've never seen.
But does it do anything for Brock? Like, does Brock do anything that's outside of the main event?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's been so long that since we've seen Brock Lesnar be in the WWE and he's not wrestling for being around that championship scene, like, when's the last time that happened? I mean, right away when he came back, almost a decade ago at this point, when he came back in 2013-14, and he wrestled John Cena, and it wasn't for the title. When he wrestled The Undertaker at WrestleMania, obviously because he was wrestling Taker, it was still one of the main events and one of the most talked about things coming out of that WrestleMania. But like, this was supposed to be the last match ever between these two, and Roman Reigns isn't dropping the title anytime soon. So I don't see I don't see Brock coming back and wrestling the third card or the third match on the card. I just don't
agree with that. The one thing I would throw out, like, it's Brock goes home for now. We've seen some chats or some comments in the chat saying, Cody wins the Rumble, he beats Roman at Mania. You put Brock in the Rumble, and then all of a sudden it's, here we go again. Brock's going to win the Rumble. It's going to be again. And then you add to that Cody pop. Like, Cody's number 30. He throws out Brock from the Rumble and just add to his story moving forward.
Yeah, we got a couple. That seam that says that, when Riddle first got to the WWE, he said that he wanted to retire Brock. Okay, I have no problem with that matchup. But I understand your point, Gabe. It's like, okay, it's very rare that you see Brock Lesnar be part of anything WWE if it doesn't have a championship attached to it, right? And so what's the stakes, right? Does he come back just for a match? Well, maybe in the non-Vince era, that might be the thing for Brock, right? It's like, okay, you've had the championship, you go away. You go away for a long time, you come back. You become a special attraction. And so maybe moving forward, he is a special attraction, Matt, kind of like Goldberg in that way, right? I mean, maybe. But see, that's the thing about Triple H. We don't know what he thinks of Brock. Did he think he was just this overly expensive guy that would only wrestle a few times a year? Is it worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze to keep bringing back Brock? I'll tell you this. Brock is the best Brock that we've seen because it's babyface Brock. It's a guy that does his own promos. Okay, he's got a southern accent. He doesn't need that. He's from Minnesota. That's the Bruce Pritchard sprinkle on him for making him some kind of hillbilly because that's not who he is. Whatever. But it's the best Brock that we've seen, though, I believe, because he's being his authentic self as far as we could tell.
Yeah. So, but again, anticipation. What's happening? What's going to happen next for Brock Lesnar? I'm not expecting Brock to be there Monday. I'm not expecting him to be there Friday. But what's next for him going forward? Well, you had something?
I was just going to say we got Ric Flair's last match coming up in Nashville as well. It was hinted by Michael Cole, by the way, saying that Jeff Jarrett's going to have a busy weekend. I'm like, what is going on? Why don't you give the deets? Tell them you can watch it on Fight, Michael. Tell them that Jay Lethal's involved. Like, my God, man.
He can't mention those guys. They wrestle somewhere else. That other world.
We'll review it on Thursday's show for sure because it's will be Ric Flair's last match. And actually, we went through the card. The card's not bad, actually.
Card's pretty good.
Some bangers on there.
Oh, yeah. Card's pretty good. I mean, the main event, I'm still a little worried about, but, hey, we got to watch it. If we got to watch it, we're going to watch it. We're not just going to make Browich watch it. We're actually going to make sure we watch it so we can review it on Thursday. Again, you can tune in to GKW every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. A big shout out to ESPN Chicago for allowing us to use their Twitch page. Typically, we're just available on the ESPN 1000 Twitter feed at ESPN 1000, also ESPN Los Angeles, Madison, Milwaukee, New York, and West Palm. So make sure you're checking us out each and every Thursday on one of those mediums. And if you can't catch us live, of course, you can always listen back as a podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Just search for GKW. It's a fun night of wrestling, a fun night of SummerSlam. Check us out next Thursday.